Okay. So when we left off Sol last time, last Trader Tuesday, we were kind of forming this head and shoulder pattern. Right here, which is often an indicator of a top. Right, we were seeing this pattern form. So basically, after we made the higher low and a higher high, we made the higher low, but we failed to make the higher high, right? This is our first indication that we could potentially see a different direction. This is our first indication. Let me show you that again. So we have our high, we have our low, we have a higher high, we have a higher low, but now we have a lower high. Now we have a lower low. If this point, we have our break of our trend, and we have a retest. Personally, I made an entry at around 57.79 for a short. So basically, pretty much right about where we are now. I made back here. I did actually take some profits and looking to reload here. As long as what? As long as we don't break this trend line, you know, I can actually. As long as this trend line kind of holds, you can see we did kind of break it, but are we going to hold above it or are we going to fall back under it? Are we going to hold above the EMA or are we going to fall below it? And if you look here at the RSI, we are now below the RSI, but are we going to see it? Are we going to see it come up and find rejection and head back down? Maybe something like that. Or are we going to, come on, maybe see something, you know, is it going to break, make the break, retest, find support? Is price action here going to break, make the retest, giving the higher low and indicate the higher high, maybe up to these shorts? That is a potential, right? So our indicator of this, right now we have the lower high, lower low, at this point, lower high, and we'll see where this goes, if this is a higher low or if this continues down lower, down toward our shorts. If we find the resistance here, and if we move down, you know, toward the longer term EMA and toward the Thor longs. Now, if I back out just a little bit, and we look at where Sol has come from, and where Sol's really gone, you can see coming down to these points, you know, when you're zoomed into the chart like this, man, that looks like a big drop down, doesn't it? Holy shit, that's way down there. This call here is 30%, 33% down. Looks way down there. But when you look at where Sol just was, and the grand scheme of things, for Sol to come down here and retest and then potentially find support, it really isn't much at all to just come down one level. Because you see we have a level here, you see we have a level here. We moved up to level 3. So coming down and retesting in level 2, or I'm still making this call. You see we have this blow off top here. We see we had a lot of price action here. You see we did have a Thor daily short in here. So Thor was predicting big price action in this point. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if at some point we do revisit this $30 range. And if you look, that's still on this uptrend. And it's still on, I'll have to go to a daily to see this. You can see it's still on our uptrend, you know. We have the higher, we have the high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. This would still be a higher low, indicating what? A potential higher high. And on the daily, we're just now getting the EMAs to switch on to the right side. So that these Thor long calls, let me clean this up a little bit because now it looks like a mess. These Thor long calls are definitely a potential still. But this is where we were calling for entry, remember? At the break and the retest. That lower high is the place that we want to make our entry, looking for what? That next lower low. Right now, not financial advice. Do your own research. But the RSI looks to be turning down in the short term, looks to be potentially meeting resistance here on the longer term. We look to be finding resistance here at a downtrend. And we did break and make the retest with the lower high. This, again, not financial advice. Do your own research. But, you know, potentially putting in a short position, setting your stop below the last high, or I'm sorry, just above the last high, and then using the Thor long call to take profit. That right there is a 4.5 ratio. Basically meaning your stand to make 4.5 times what you've set to lose there. Not financial advice, do your own research, but that is a potential trade setup to look at. Sorry, I had to let the dog out. He's whining. So anybody have any questions or anything so far? Now, we did see, looking at Thor just a second ago, some of these calls were wiped out, and that's not surprising because if you look at this 4-hour call, look how thin and narrow the entry zone was and how it's stacked right up on top of another. If you look up here at the shorts, we had 3 shorts all stacked in this zone. So I'm going to look at Thor in a second and see which ones have been condensed, which ones have been erased. But yeah, it was kind of interesting. I don't often see, you know, you might see a 1 hour and a 15-minute and things like that, different time frames stacked together, but rarely have I seen like 3-4 hour short calls, all just like this one basically encompasses both of them. And the take profit points are very similar. So I'll look at it again in a minute because I did notice when we just looked at it, some of them were kind of removed. So we'll see what we're looking at. But yeah, right now it looks like that candle's already going in our favor a little bit. Indicating a potential resistance and top here. But yeah, congrats. If anyone took this call, you know, again, you have the break and retest is where we look to make our entries. Could have taken a little bit of profits there, if you wish, which was, you know, 10%. You know, could well, that was a little drastic. Let's say entry somewhere in here, a little more achievable. You're looking at 7-8% is where you could have taken profits already and now be looking to reload again. And if you didn't take profits, you had your entry here. You still had a stop loss was here. Now can ladder the stop loss down even further, and you're still riding that same position. Basically, it retested back at even, but could have taken a little bit of profit and potentially looking to reload. If you did not, let's not talk about the past. We did talk about this last week. We did have this on stream. We had the break, and we said as long as we make the lower high, this is our entry point. So congrats if you made it. But if you didn't, we're talking about right now, this does look like a potential trade you could take. Again, not financial advice. Do your own research. Somewhere around a 3.5% risk, setting just above the last high here, and somewhere around 18 to almost 20%, 17 to 19% here, taking profit in what Thor is calling for a long. So, one of the things we can do is look at Thor in order to take profits, because remember how the market moves. And if you haven't seen this, you can look in Tuesday Trader Review, and there's an entire write-up I did on what does it mean to have a lower high or a higher low and higher high. Higher low and higher high, and what do these mean, and how to identify these trends. And if you've been in frogs long enough, you've probably seen the trend is your friend until the end. So what do we see? We were making higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher low. Well, then we made the lower high, we broke, we made the lower low, we made the retest with the lower high. This is a great entry point that almost has confirmation that we've broke the uptrend and we failed the retest. Now let's look at Solana. Now it's not always perfect, Z's, but if we look, we have the low, we have high, we have a higher low, we have a higher high. A higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. I'm stuck because I can't scroll up there. Higher high. Well, then we got the lower low, and now we have the lower high, indicating what? The lower low. So you see that exact pattern right here, right? You even see the W. It's not perfectly drawn out, but if you look, here's the W. Right there. That's the W on the bottom. You see we had our red line, our downtrend line. We made the break. We made the retest. And now here's our support line going up, connecting our lows. So now you see where we've got the break. So if this is where we're at in the chart, right here, right? That's a great entry point to get in the lower high at the break and the retest. And you ride it down until when? You have the break and the retest. And you either make a higher high or a higher low. That's your first indicator. We may be going the other direction. Just like right here, we had this kind of a triple top. We had the high, low, higher high, higher low, lower high. This is our first indicator, lower high. So it was kind of, and then the break. So in this instance here, it would kind of been like that. So yeah, it wasn't the perfect M, but you get the gist. It's kind of the same thing that forms that pattern, right? There it is. Boom. But again, this is how I do a lot of my analysis. The trend is your friend until the end, and you want to look at these indicators. So there would have been, basically a trend line here, red trend line here, something like that. Let me just do this. So now you see how the market tends to move, right? And you see here, when we come back down, we're usually not all the way back down as low as we were. We're up just a little bit. We're up a level or two. Just one or two. And if we go back to the Solana chart, you see how we could come back down here? See how we go up, and then when we come back down, we're just up a level or two? And how we could go up and how we could come all the way back down here or all the way back down here and be up just a level or two. So I know a lot of times looking at the charts, you're like, man, we're at $58. Sol's not going to drop down and give me an entry back at 39. There's no way it's dropping down to 39. Well, I mean, we could drop all the way down to 30 and still be bullish in the grand scheme of things. We could drop basically all the way down to 22, 23 and still be bullish, making higher highs, higher lows in the long grand scheme. So remember, time frames, understanding time frame, understanding, are you trying to make money off of this pump? Are you trying to get 15% off that pump, which would be a 15-minute or a 1-hour Thor call? Or are you trying to get, what are more so daily calls and 4-hour calls, the longer time frame? And, like we called on Trader Tuesday here, we had the break right here at 22.60. We had the retest with the higher low right here at 23.33. And if you look right here, we actually had the same thing, but opposite, inverted head and shoulder. We had the low, lower high, lower low, higher low. I'm sorry, higher high, and then the higher low. So it's the opposite of what we just experienced up here, right? But that was our indicator. This was our first indicator right here at $21.52 of, hey, we may be done this downtrend and looking to turn up. Our next indicator was here at $22.80, right? At the break, $22.60. The next indicator was here when we touched on our EMA. We made the lower high, and you could get in anywhere from 23 to $24 within 8 to 12 hours, 23 to $24, right? Could have made this entry point that we called. And the take profit for this call is when? At the break. So you take some profits here, which would be 140%. And at the retest, because we could have made a higher high, but we failed to make the higher high. So this is where you close your position at 150% profit. Congratulations if you took this call on the Trader Tuesday. This is another one we called out. You could have taken. I made the updates. I posted in the Tuesday Trader Review channel all the numbers and the entry points for you. Just like I'm not financial advice, do your own research. Just like I'm showing you in the market right now what we are experiencing, right? We failed to make the higher high. We didn't make the higher high. We did now make a slightly lower low. We did at this point make a lower high, meaning what? We could be looking down toward the lower low. Was this a higher low? Potentially, but it looks like we're meeting resistance. So to me, it looks like we could be going to that lower low. And if we do, I wouldn't be at all surprised if you see here, we have a price gap. You see how from here, this can't support. You see there was nothing, no price action, no retest in here. We just blew through this whole zone, right? Down to about here, we had a little bit of price action and a couple candles across, and then the top of this one. Well, where's that line up with that Thor call? Where's that line up with the take profits of these other Thor calls, right? So again, since we have an idea of how the market can move, we can see how the market could come down here, enter this zone, hit take profit, come down, make the lower low, come up and hit the take profit, and then maybe do we hit the next and make the higher low and now make the higher high for the next take profit?
Question for you, if that's okay.
Fire away. Anytime you got a question, fire away.
Thanks, brother. So if you were starting to enter your short here, your first take profit would be the top of that 4 hour long, that first 4 hour long box, or would you just keep it going potentially down somewhere in that range between the two 4 hour longs?
So what I would do is I would take probably 50% of my position in profit here. If the trend is going down, I don't want to close my entire trade. But closing 50% of my position here gives me that profit in my pocket. And then if let me move this just to clean it up a little bit. So if you hit here and you take profits, if we come up here and hit the Thor long call for profits, if we meet resistance here, we meet resistance at the EMA, we meet resistance at the RSI, you could reload with what you took profits on, reload here, and look to ride down to the next. So you don't necessarily have to close your entire trade. You could take some profits, and who knows, maybe Sol just shits the bed and just fucking goes straight down like this. You know, that's why you don't want to close your entire position. I don't want to close my entire position until I see, and wherever it may be right here, until I see the higher low and making a higher high. Right?
Right. And
it may happen here.
On a 4 hour call, usually how long are you looking for that to play out over?
Okay, so this is another thing in the Tuesday Trader Review channel. There is one of the write-ups I did is called Understanding Time Frames.
Okay.
And
I'll go read that.
So, yeah, but I'll give you a recap real quick too.
Thank you.
So a 15-minute call does not mean once it hits entry point that in 15 minutes it's going to hit take profit. A 4 hour call doesn't mean once it hits this, we're going to hit profit in 4 hours. Doesn't mean that at all. What this means is, like, if we zoom in, I'm going to draw a tiny box real quick. If we just look at, say, this box right here. If we go into a 15-minute chart, you can see how many different little pumps and little dumps there's been, right? You can see here we now have the higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, right? So you see the pattern forming. So this would be a 15-minute call probably. And it played out in maybe 17 hours or even just a couple hours, right? Now, if we go back to the 4-hour chart, you know, a lot of these calls, we'll even go back to some like this call here. The entry to take profit was 2 days. So some of them can take, kind of several days to play out. Entry, take profit. This was, oh shit, wrong tool. 2 days. So 4-hour calls, I would look anywhere for them to take a couple days, even a couple weeks. A week to a few days to a week to two is not uncommon. And then the daily calls, you're looking at them to play out in weeks to even a couple months. If we look back at this Bitcoin short Thor call, this Thor call was made on May 15th, and it didn't hit entry point until July 13th. So a couple months later, and then it was 12 days or so, 13 days from entry to take profit. So sometimes it can happen quick. Sometimes it takes a while to play out. But the 4-hour calls, you're generally looking at, a couple days to a week for them to play out.
So on something like today's, you were mentioning like not financial advice. You would maybe look to short here. I entered, and I'm now like 22% down. Did I enter too soon? Like if I had set that stop loss, because I think you mentioned a pretty tight one, I already would have been taken out. But now I'm hearing like it's just going to take a longer time on a 4-hour call to play out. So should I have a looser stop, like closer to my?
What I would say is like if you made entry here, if you made an entry here, stop loss above the last high, which was somewhere in here or even up here, you're only looking at that's a 3%, right?
Okay.
That's a 3% loss compared to a 18 to 19% gain.
Right.
So we still haven't hit stop loss yet.
Okay.
I don't know what you mean about how you would have already triggered stop loss.
I entered at 57.8, so maybe I just entered too soon.
Well, I mean, even if we drop this to
at 3%,
50,
I might have just got the numbers wrong, so I'm clarifying.
Yeah, so even at 57.8, you're looking at a 4% stop loss, but 4% stop loss to 18% gain, 4.3 risk to reward ratio. So this trade in no way has it played out yet. We don't know if we are going to make the higher high above this point or above this point. Are we going to make the higher high above this, or are we going to make the lower low? Obviously we don't know yet. And this could take, if you look at just like this wave took 3 days. This wave took 2 days. To go just from here to here took an entire day. So, I mean, we may not know for a day or two whether it's going to break above this, or it may even be, 2 days or longer before we know if it's going to make the lower low. That's what I mean. These 4-hour calls and looking at 4-hour charts, they could take several days to a week to play out easy.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, man.
Yep. Yeah, so like I said, what's up? How you doing, bro? Glad to have you back.
Thanks. Just got finished moving into this new place. Had to tune in.
Oh yeah,
But
but Thor's going to be paying for your new place soon. I like it. Let's fucking go.
dude, stacking. But I had a question on the 4 hour in one day. So I kind of changed up my strat a little bit by simply just being a little more patient and going for those four. All right, see you later. It was a 4 hour, and I haven't really hit a one day in a while, but I've been catching some fours. And recently, some of the calls have multiple entries, and
Yes.
oh, sorry, I thought I disconnected. And so I was wondering the same principle, like how Andy mentioned, like if there are 3 entries for a 50-minute, call, he'll typically suggested you will wait for the last, see if the last entry will, hit rather than, going for the first 1 out of 3. And my question is for the 4 hours, because they seem to be less volatile, would you also suggest waiting out those or waiting out to see if it hits those second entries or third entries or as many as there might be, as opposed to going for that first entry even at a 4 hour?
Right. I think I get what you're saying. Again, you can see we have multiple entry 4 hour points for both longs and multiple 4 hour calls for shorts. So if we go back to the charts and we look at them to where we can see where these calls are visually, right? Here's one of them, very small. So say like this 4 hour long call, maybe let's say I wanted to trade with $50. Let's say I might enter with $10 to $15 here at this entry point, which is also kind of the very top of this zone, and then wait to see, do we get something like this? Do we have an indicator that this may be the bottom? Are we getting the higher low? Is the RSI starting to come back above? Are we printing candles above the white line? Do I have some kind of indicator that this may be the bottom? So yeah, you may want to DCA, right? Dollar cost average.
Yeah.
If you enter, if you want to go $50 trade and you put $10 to $15 here at $40.50, and it comes down, well, now you can enter again with maybe say another $15 at $38.50. So now your average is $39.60 or so, right? And then you can wait to see, okay, now I got the higher low. That's my point. That's my indication that we may be going up, even if it's for a short term, and you could maybe put the rest in here, right? Now, looking at that same kind of question for these short calls, if I wanted to make a $50 trade, I would probably be looking at putting $15 here at the beginning of this one and the beginning of this one. And then I would probably be looking to load up more if it makes it to the top of this middle and into this top call here. Do we get into this zone and then load up? And again, what do I say if I only get $15 in here? If it just keeps going up, well, then I can load up with the rest of that $50 call up here, right? But if I get the indication of, okay, now I've made the lower high and we're looking for the lower low, again, dollar cost average. So don't blow your whole load going into the trade right at once. You know, you can scale in, and just like scaling in, you can scale out. You take a little bit of profits, you know, take a little bit of profits here. If it hits here, take a little bit of profits. If it hits here, this is a good time to take profits on a Thor call. You know, if again we make the lower high and we're going for lower low, you know, look to take profits. But ultimately, when I want to close this trade out completely, is when the trend ends. And how do I know the downtrend is ended? When I have a break and I have a retest that gives me a higher low. That's my ultimate indicator that the trend is ended. When I see something, you know, a low, a higher low, and we have a break and a retest that results in a higher low. This is my ultimate entry point. And sometimes it happens right here on the break and retest, and sometimes it happens right there on the break and retest. But ultimately, I want to see that downtrend be broken. And after it's broken, I want to see a higher low indicating a new trend, indicating the trend is your friend until the end. The break and the retest is the end. So this is the starting point of the uptrend, right? Just like down here. That's the same thing we saw down here at $22, breaking at 23, retesting 23.50 to $24. That was the, you know, down here was the first break. We got the break right here at 1942. We got the higher low at 18, right? Well, we said take profits here, and we did. This was a Thor long call that was invalidated. And if you look back at the Tuesday Trader Review write-ups and stream, I said, hey, no, we're taking this call. We're taking this call because we're going to come down, and then we look to re-enter here 21 to $24. So this trend is our friend, and it has been a friendly trend. But the trend has now come to an end. It has made the break, and at this point, looks like it has made the retest with a lower high. So that trend, and you know what? If it continues up, that's fine. Great. I didn't sell all my Solana. I just closed this long. And if I closed a long at 150%, 140% profit, and it continues up, I'm okay with that. I'll just wait until it does make the lower high or lower low and does start to wherever this next line is. And then I'll look to make the entry. You know, there's nothing wrong with having a trade get stopped out. You're not going to be right every single time. All we can look at is the indicators that we have and manage our risk. Because if you properly manage your risk, you can be wrong many times and be profitable by only being right just a few, right? If you're only losing maybe 4% but earning 18, you know, in that trade we just talked about, you have multiple shots to fire and still be profitable. And that's why we use our indicators. We have our indicators of trend break. We have indicators of, you know, this whole up run. Look, we didn't print any candles below the white line. We didn't print any candles below the short-term EMA, right? Wait a minute. We're starting to make candles below it. Wait a minute, we're not making higher highs anymore. Wait a minute, we're still making candles below it. wait, we're not making a higher high again. This is an indicator that we could be coming down and maybe retesting the longer EMA, maybe retesting this longer term trend line, or maybe just entering a little sideways zone for accumulation before another pump. Maybe, but that's why you have a stop loss to protect yourself, right? But these indicators are we going to find resistance on the RSI and turn down? You know, these are the indicators that help us find ourselves on the proper side of probability and manage risk. That's profitable trading. Finding yourself on the right side of probability and managing risk. And that's exactly what Thor does. Thor literally helps you manage risk by clicking the risk management tool, and it helps find you on the right side of probability because approximately 70% of the time it triggers an entry zone, it hits the take profit zone. So if you can be right 70% of the time and manage your risk accordingly, that's how you become a profitable trader. Any questions? Where we're at? Any questions with Thor? Anything? Love seeing the same people join from week to week. Seriously, it lets me know that people are learning something and coming back for a reason, because if this was boring, redundant shit, you guys wouldn't be here each week.
Yeah, I'm. This is my highlight of the week, definitely. I have a question. So I started using perpetual trading on Drift, and I wanted to ask if it's also possible on Drift to close only a part of the position and let the rest ride. Like you're saying, you only take something out and the rest you let it ride. I don't know if this is possible with Drift.
So I'd have to look at Drift to be more specific, but so most of the time you can either have an option of closing a percent of your trade, or what you can do, let's just say you open a trade of, you know, a perpetual short on 2 Solana, right? So basically a $100 short. You can put in an order for just like one of those Solana. Does that make sense? So you're basically putting in an order, and it will fill that order with just a portion of what you have. So, like, if let's say for going long, because it's easier just to explain. Let's say I bought 10 Solana right here. Well, I can put in an order to sell 2 Solana at $30. I can put in an order to sell 2 Solana at $40. I can put in an order to sell 2 Solana at $50, right? So I've been scaling, took profits, and now I have the rest of my position to close at the break and retest. Now I close it. Now I close the position totally.
But that would be more spot trading, basically.
You can. I don't know about Drift and the interface particularly, but I know with other exchanges, perpetual contracts, you know, you can say open a contract for $500, and then you can close, say, $100 worth of that contract and leave 400 of it still riding. You know, just to use round numbers. So you can and should be able to close a portion of your contract, so you can ladder out of your position. Just like if this is a down trade, downtrend, it would be smart to probably take a little profit here when we hit the long-term EMA, because if it finds support and keeps going, well, at least you took profits, you can get out at even, and you made profits. But if it continues down, you're not completely closed out yet, right? So if it comes back up here, you're still below entry point, and now you're taking profits even lower. Still below entry point and below last high, taking profits even lower. And then ultimately, like I said, I want to completely close out my position, make sure my position's closed when the trend has ended. The trend is your friend until the end. And in my mind, this trend here has come to an end. Now, it's a good time to say this too. Just because this uptrend has ended does not mean we are going in a downtrend. We could still be going in an uptrend, but obviously now we have a slower momentum uptrend. We're starting to print candles below. We're moving sideways. We look to maybe test the longer term EMA. We could go in a slower uptrend. We could go in a sideways trend. We could go in a downtrend. That's why we look for our indicators and we put stop losses accordingly. But what we do know is this uptrend, this green line, this momentum of us just printing candles above the white line, this momentum of us finding support above the RSI the entire time has come to an end. We have broken this trend here when we broke the green line. We've broken this trend when we started printing and closing candles below the EMA. We started breaking this trend. We started losing support on neutral on the RSI. So this trend has ended. That does not mean we are going in a downtrend. It does mean you can make an entry, set stop loss, and prepare accordingly, because when you do make entry on the end of a trend, looking back here, when this ends, you make entry, the break, retest. That's a good one down. You have the break and the retest. That's a big one up. You have the break and retest. This could be a good one down. We don't know yet. That's why you set yourself, you manage your risk accordingly, because you're not going to be right every time. So you take tiny losses, and then when you are right, you take profits and scale out, and the trend is your friend until the end. And I look for Thor calls as when to take profits, or if you don't understand these charts, you don't want to look at charts. Literally, just look where the Thor calls are, make sure you're managing your risk, set your stop loss, set your entry, stop loss, take profit. That's it. You don't even have to be there. If it hits entry, it'll buy for you. Your stop loss is set, your take profit set. You'll never have to look at it again. Maybe on these 4-hour charts, maybe every couple days you want to look to see if the 4-hour calls maybe been invalidated and you could close your trade. Maybe you want to see if it did hit and if you are in profit and maybe scale out a little bit or something. But you don't need to understand charts to use Thor. I'm just giving my knowledge and experience in charts to help people understand, to see how the market moves, maybe understand the market a little better, and be more confident in trading as a whole, and even using Thor as a whole, by understanding how the market moves and understanding that, yes, we could come all the way back down here to $38, $39 and still be extremely bullish, in the long run. Like most people are going to think, oh shit, we're down 30%. We're losing it. But that could be, we may not hit that point, right? We might not hit this long call until here. Maybe this long call will be our break and our retest point. And by that
With
time,
your-
people are
With your call
Go ahead.
tonight, it's
not
it's like
financial advice, do your research.
yes, of course. Sorry about that. I'll work on my phrasing, but
Yeah. You're good.
yeah. I see like let's say it's respecting that like the retest and breakout or the failure of a breakout or higher high, right? But it's not quite at like the 4-hour Thor call. At what point would you expect Thor to actually change that target or put a call in on the 4-hour? Does it have to fail something specifically for the
Thor
to
has
actually
made
adjust?
4-hour calls. Thor has made its 4-hour calls. It has all these 4-hour calls and it has these 4-hour calls. So how Thor operates, again, right now we are in this wedge. Everything inside of this right now is just noise, right? So Thor is not saying the market is going up or the market's going down. That's not what Thor does. What Thor is saying is if the market drops down to this point, there's a high probability that we are going to retest this point. Take profit. If the market drops down to this point, there's a high probability that we're going to retest this. Take profit. If Thor pumps up to here, there's a high probability because you see all the price action that took place right through this, basically right where price is now. It's right in this midline. If price pumps up to here, there's high probability that we retest this zone and take profit there. So what Thor does is it takes data points of here's the point. If we hit this high, it's pretty likely we retest the white line again, right? If we drop down to here, it's highly likely we test up to the white line again. So those are the kind of calls that Thor is making. It's not predicting where the market is going in any way. What it's doing is taking data points and saying, if we hit this zone, there's a high probability we retest this before we go way lower to where this isn't substantial anymore.
I guess what I'm asking, and maybe I worded it incorrectly again, but is there a data point or a set of data points right now in the current setup that would cause the 4-hour short calls to come lower and for the entry to be more in line with what we're talking about tonight?
At this point right now, no. This is what we have at this point. Now, we may have, let's say price action drops all the way down to here, right? Let's say it drops all the way down. Then it's likely we make that higher low. Wouldn't surprise me if maybe Thor places a 4-hour short here or something. If we drop down to here, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Maybe then, maybe then at that point it will trigger something new. But at this point right now, Thor's not predicting the market going up or down from this wedge. And if you look where we're at, we're 11% and 18%. And if you look at the EMA or the middle of the triangle, if you look at the middle of the triangle, that's been our resistance. and what has been the next support line below, right? If you go from the middle of the triangle here, that's a 16% pump or a 16% dump. Well, would you imagine that? It happens to be right in the fucking middle. So that's why Thor's not making a coin flip call, a 50-50 call of, hey, we're going up, or hey, we're going down. But what Thor will say is, if we go down, look for us to retest here. If we go up, look for us to retest here.
Yeah, this whole explanation that you just gave is like the fucking perfect marketing pitch for Thor as a product, right? Because it's invalidating people's emotions and stupidity of just having a 50-50 coin flip and giving you better probability, right? So I love that. That explanation just kind of drove that point home. Thanks a lot.
Perfect. I appreciate that, man. Perfect. Because that's what it literally is. If you just go in right now, you're almost a 50-50. I mean, we could find support and keep pumping, or we could find resistance and dump. So that's why you need to make sure you manage your risk for either side. And ultimately, what we're looking for is we are looking for this downtrend. I mean, this is a downtrend at this point because we do have some points on it. Are we going to get the break and the retest on it? Which is possible. Or are we going to find resistance on it and look for, support again? We don't know. So we have to just look for our indicators. And I have in the Tuesday Trader Review, there's also a write-up on indicators. The EMAs. What does it mean when the white line is above the blue? What does it mean when... Oh, shit. What does it mean when the white line goes below the blue? What's it mean when the white line goes back above, right? What's it mean when the candles are printing below? What's it mean when the candles are printing above? These are all indicators. What does it mean when the RSI, I use this as a FOMO meter. When you get all the way up here, like I look at this as a car, right? This is neutral. You're like, you're just chilling, right? Now you're hitting the gas and you're moving up, you're going forward. But when you get above red line, you need to chill the fuck out before you blow your engine, right? Doesn't mean that you got to stop, but it means you got to chill out a little bit. And look, we're finding support, still not dropping, but once you drop way down, it's the opposite. When you look down here, this is where people are paper handing. This is where people are, below the paper hand line and just like, okay, the car is fucking about to conk out. The motherfucker needs to get moving, right? Same here. Like, it's about to conk out. Gets moving.
So one's paper handing and one's FOMO, if you looked at it on that sort of RSI chart.
That's kind of what I use the RSI as a FOMO meter. Are we in this zone is bullish. Getting above and redlining, people are starting to FOMO. Yeah, it's bullish, but it's going up, but people are starting to FOMO. Down here, man, this is bearish movement. Just when you're staying below it, that's bearish movement. But when people are getting down here, man, they're starting to really paper hand. They're starting to really paper hand, So that is another indicator. And, like I said, from all the way back here, we broke, right? And we have found support every time we've come down to it. We have found support until when we lost support on the RSI is almost the same time we lost support printing candles above the EMA and the same time that we started to break our trend line. So that's one indicator, two indicators, three indicators that this trend has come to an end. And we need to start paying attention, maybe make an entry, and assess stop loss and take profit. Did someone start with a question? I didn't mean to cut anyone off if someone was asking. But that looks pretty good right now. We are starting to see a red candle forming there. So that is good to see for essentially the call we are making. And even right now, like I said, set it above the last high, which would be here, or if you really wanted to be technical and give it room to breathe, you could even go above here. But that's almost doubling. You're now at 7% risk as opposed to about 3.5% risk. And 18% reward.
Yo, Sol is such a strong asset. That
dude, here's
shit
the
just
thing about Solana, man. Solana needs to chill the fuck out and it needs to cool off, right? Because you look at this, like it needs to cool off. But in my opinion, not financial advice, do your own research. Solana's still fucking undervalued. So, and it was manipulated so fucking badly that where is the we don't know where fair price value for Solana is because it was manipulated so badly. And in my opinion, Solana is still fucking undervalued. So in a technical analysis perspective, it needs to cool down. It needs to chill out. It needs to retest some of these lower zones. But in bullish and in crypto, it could just keep fucking ripping. It's hard to say. And that's why,
man.
Solana is ridiculously undervalued, man.
Right? What's up, Rumty? Good to hear you, bro.
That's good, dude.
It performs too well not to have a high evaluation. I feel though in the long, probably in the next year, 2025, even. I'm sure.
Yeah,
well, what a lot of people don't realize is what Solana was first intended for was a ultra fast, a microsecond, micro cost DeFi transaction protocol and chain, right? Like it was designed to handle multiple orders and make multiple transactions securely, quickly, and cheap, and be a DeFi protocol and smart chain. So, what is Frogs dealing with? Interesting. Just gonna say.
I mean, dude, what is anything Solana, like fast transactions that want to scale, and you want to use blockchain?
Exactly.
It's Solana.
And if more people adopt blockchain and they stop being Ethereum maxis because they hold bags of Ethereum, and you compare apples to fucking apples.
Hey man, yeah, I'm one of them. I came from ETH. Now I'm on Sol.
Dude, I mean,
dude, this shit had to start somewhere, man.
Here's my opinion, and ETH may always remain king as far as layer ones because it has the network effect already, right? It already has the network effect, which is hard to replicate and top. But to have mass adoption in anything at all, you need to solve a problem or give solution to something that is needed or wanted. you need to make it cheap or near free, completely reasonable in cost. And the other thing, and one of the most important to gain mass adoption, is it has to be fucking easy to use. Right? So, yeah, I like to say this. If it was as hard to order and watch a movie on Netflix as it is to load money in Ethereum and go do something, no one would use fucking Netflix. If it was as hard to watch a movie on Netflix as it is to go do something on Ethereum, no one would use Netflix. But Netflix is cheap and it's easy to fucking use and it's quick. Solana is so much easier to use. It has the user interface by leaps and bounds over Ethereum. It has the speed and transaction costs leaps and bounds over ETH. If we can, Solana as a blockchain, gain some of that liquidity and that network effect, boom. And in my opinion, you also always have two Goliaths whenever it comes to any tech. You have,
Microsoft and Apple.
Mac and PC. Yep.
Yeah.
Microsoft and Apple. You have iPhone and Android. You have Xbox and PlayStation. You have, you always have like two of in the top, and then there's a bunch of other ones, right? So I think Ethereum, with network effect and liquidity it already has, could remain one of the top ones. I think Solana could be that number two, without a doubt, is that second layer one chain.
It becomes more and more apparent.
It's just the scalable version, right?
In this conversation.
No,
because
Bitcoin's your store of value. ETH is what people will use to get returns. You stake your money, get like 4 or 5% in big money, put their money in that, earn that. Yeah. But then Solana is the scalable blockchain where you build the dApps, you build the reasons. Yeah, because that's what's going to pull people into Sol, is the companies that can come in on build on Sol and scale their ideas, and their ideas pull people onto that pulls the customer into the mall, right? And then you can make money from that.
And that's one of the reasons I'm bullish on the Solana.
Hey man, a good push.
Share, dude. What is this?
It's green candles. So.
My man.
That's one of the reasons I was bullish on the Solana phone. Not because I thought it was going to be a great phone, not because I think it's going to replace Android or iPhone, but if people start developing apps for the phone to interact with blockchain, that's more and more people adopting to blockchain, right? That's more and more people creating wallets, interacting, and leads to mass adoption. Something as simple as apps on the phone make things easier, make things more mass adoption friendly, right? So that's why I'm still bullish on the Solana phone, because I really do think it's going to be a lot of people's introduction to blockchain, and I think people will start to develop on Solana and develop apps that are congruent with Solana.
And now you got Pyth, man. The chain link of fucking Sol. Like, more decentralized Oracle. It's very interesting, all the shit that's happening, man.
Dude, it's a bright future. Okay, I heard someone posted this in Frogs the other day. I don't know where this person is in the world, so whatever, but they tried to move some money from their bank to a centralized exchange, and their bank required them to take a 20-minute seminar on why crypto is a bad investment and a scam before they would allow them to move their money to a centralized exchange. If that's not fucking bullish for crypto, I don't know what is. If a bank is making you take a 20-minute seminar telling you that it's a bad idea to move your money there, keep it with us, it's probably a good idea to think about moving your money. So do some fucking research.
Yeah, that's
Just
news
saying.
to me.
Dude, is that not
That's pretty,
insane?
yeah, that's pretty
Like
wild.
one of the biggest reasons why you have the buying power being eaten away is telling you to not move your money. Huh? I wonder why.
Right. And again, I don't know what country or anything else or what bank or like I don't have any of the details. But they made a comment like, this is fucking crazy. Look, listen to what my bank is making me do.
It's making me bullish and I want to move more.
Right? And it just like that, 20 minutes of telling me why I shouldn't is telling me why I need to do fucking 20 hours of research on why I probably should. Yeah, we're going all over the place, which I love it. I'm all about conversation. I'm all about questions, all about crypto and blockchain and Thor and chart. So anything conversation within those, all about. Someone asked about GMT a while ago, and
You talking about green metaverse token?
I think this was the Steppen token.
Yeah, GMT, green metaverse. That shit.
Oh, is that okay?
Yeah, I asked because of that. Yeah.
Okay, well, if you recall, we had said we look to retest. We go on the daily. I thought we were going to retest this block because this is the very first place we had any price action. And then we had this extreme candle, and I drew this other block, and I said anywhere in this is probably a good entry point. And you can see anywhere in that was a fantastic entry point. And as soon as we started printing candles above the EMA, and as soon as we broke our downtrend there, from this entry zone, we'll just say the top of it, not even the bottom of it. 83% right now, 85% right now. Even waiting until the break of trend and then a small retest. So you had, this is a daily. So you had 4 to 5 days to see the break of trend here and make entry and be up approximately 63, 65%. Now I would look for still, it's got to retest sometime, especially you see these EMAs getting ready to cross it. Long as we hold the retest and make a higher low above this, as long as this stays above here, this would be the ultimate entry point to look at, if you miss the break. Wait until the low is established, or the higher low is established, and that's where you look to make your entry point, because that would be the point where you can establish a potential uptrend.
So under 20 cent basically to start re-entry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you did buy in here, I mean, I forgot when we even did this, when I even drew this shit out. But I mean, this candle was established on August 18th, that zone. And it's been working that zone ever since August 18th and didn't leave it until the 22nd of October. So, Yeah. What else did we talk about? Gala. Holy shit. Every now and then, looks like I might know what I'm talking about. Right here we have the break. Right here we have a break and retest. And so we were talking about fibs. If I set this at the top of the pump, and I set this at the low, right? So that gives us the first pump up. It gives us a potential zone for what our retest might be. And this is where I like to make my entries on this golden line, on this golden zone. That would be making the higher low and indicating the higher high. And I'd be looking to take profits up here, which happens to be right in the middle of the zone where we've seen resistance, 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 was support, was support, was support. And that would be a nice 190% gain.
Hey, Mode, are your fib colors custom? I kind of want to incorporate fibs in my TA. Just as like a brief overview at some
are
point.
custom. And the only reason I have them the way that I do, I have my white lines because they're very easy to see, right? So I have my white line to where I set at the top, my white line where I set at the bottom. I have I set my yellow line, and I have mine to where it shows price, not the actual fib level. It tells me the price. Which you can just, how do I do this? Settings. So instead of, I can turn levels on as well, right?
Word, yeah.
So now you can see level 1 and level 0, 0 and 1, right? The 0.38 is where I like to make my entry, and that's why I made it orange. That's kind of my golden zone, right? So I see that very clearly, and I want to scale in this area. And then I just have this red because that tells me to start watch, and I may be approaching stop loss. But I take profit here at the 168, and I take profit and usually close position or really reassess here at the 2.61. So, if you want to screenshot this real quick or anything, fucking feel free.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
But that's how I set my fibs is I take profits at the blue, and then why this is bright green is to let me know like that's when that's when I want to close most of my position and reassess.
Gotcha.
Because a lot of times then you're looking at maybe coming all the way back down to like level 1, right? Something like that. And then do you lose it, or do you then go for the higher low? Well, I will reassess at this point, but at least I've entered. I've taken okay. I've only taken 100% profit and 190% profit just in case,
yeah, none
which
crazy.
It doesn't normally work out quite that extreme. This is a shit coin, so be careful. And then you could look to, after taking 100 and 200% profit, you could look to re-enter at 50% cheaper from those profit points, right? So that's why shit coins are fun.
Whoa, did you just call my Gala a shit coin? I'm just kidding, dude.
Omi's still on that, still respecting that downtrend, but it is hit the baseline here once again, right where it did before. Kind of right through here. So if we hold the higher low here, which what do we have? What's another thing to look at? Well, we see we are getting down toward paper hand level, right? We're getting down into that zone where every time we hit this zone, we reject it away from it. When we got in this zone, look how quickly these candles spiked up and we got out of it. If we make the higher low here, we could most certainly. So if that's our low, high, if this ends up being our low where we're at right now, and we make our break, probably make our retest. And in that uncanny right here was the temporary top, just because we saw this here, right? These tops, it ended up being that top again. So once we break that, it's highly likely we retest it. If we think about where the EMAs would be at that point, this would probably be coming down something like this to start turning back up, right? And we may see something like this where we start getting above neutral and finding support. Potentially something something like that. Right? So again, multiple indicators, and if any of this is confusing, Thor is the best fucking indicator I've ever found. Thor, and just looking at when does it tell me to get in, when does it tell me to get out, Thor has been one of the best indicators that I have found by far, even though I have learned my own TA over years of staring at charts and doing this. And, the track record shows the calls that we've made here on stream. Some of these are Thor calls. Some of them are our own individual TA calls, but all these have been profitable calls. I guess this one I should, we did make it go at least to 5%, but we'll leave that white until we see if that really turns down and heads our direction. And if this is another one, we'll make green. It's a truly profitable call. But Thor is the ultimate indicator. If you hit if you hit the entry zone, use the risk management tool. Let me show you that real quick. So you'll see this on regular Thor or Thor Pro. Next to any of the calls, you'll see RM, set up trade, and risk quote currency. So, we're talking about USD here. This isn't, say, a Bitcoin pairing, because then it would be BTC, not USD. But so this is Sol USD. What are you willing to risk? Let's say you're willing to risk up to $20 on this trade. So we'll calculate our risk, plan your trade, trade your plan. Wise words by Sile. So 1-to-1 risk to reward, 1 to 1.5, and a 1-to-2 risk to reward. So you think about a 1-to-1 is basically a coin flip, heads or tails. However, it's not quite when you take into consideration that Thor is right 70% of the time, not just 50% of the time. It's right approximately 70% of the time. So imagine if you're betting on a coin flip, but you're winning 70% instead of 50-50. Slow and steady, you are going to make money, right? So this is, a little bit closer. But anyway, I digress. Let me get back. If you're willing to risk $20 on this trade, your entry point is at $47.62 to $46.48. This is your entry zone. If you want to go just 1-to-1, you're going to buy 2.2 SOL at $46.48. You're going to set your stop loss at $37.48. And you're going to take profit at take profit 1. And then you're going to assess whether you should fully close position or look to take profits at take profit point 2. Did someone have a question? I heard somebody's mic. This is important stuff, managing your risk. This is highly important stuff. So if anyone has questions on it, ask. But managing your risk is what allows you to be wrong over and over, and then when you're right, make up for all those losses and more. No questions? Everybody got it? It's pretty simple. Any one of these trades, like let's say the market does pump and you want to look at taking this first short. This is the first short that's going to come up, at $65, 64 to $65 entry zone, and it's stacked on top of this one at $64. You see the lower entry point's almost the same. So these may be good signals to take if you're looking to go short in that pump. Again, risk management. Let's say since it's 2 calls, you're going to double it since it's 2 calls, right? Again, everyone has their own risk tolerance. I'm not telling you at all what this number should be. That's why it is up to you. You can put 5. If you only want to go $5, you're only willing to risk $5, right? Calculate. All right. I'm going to sell 1 Solana at $64.30. My stop loss at $69.30, and my take profit point is at $59.30, and that would be a 8.8% profit. If you look right under here, I don't know how clearly you guys can see that. That would be an 8.8% gain by doing so. Same thing if, let's say, you have a bag of SOL, right? You're willing to risk $5, okay? Let's say you just have a bag of 10 SOL and you want to make a little more money or a little more Solana, right? $5. You sell one of your Solana, just one of your Solana, at this price, and you're going to buy this 1 Solana back at either $69.30, and it's going to cost you $5 more than what you spent, or you are going to buy this 1 Solana back at $59.30 and make 8% profit off 8% of 64.30. Does that make more sense? Maybe I shouldn't have closed that so fast. So that's how you can use Thor shorts to make money with your spot bags, right? And you don't want to go selling all your Solana, right? Because we're bullish on Solana, but you can sell portions of it and look to buy it back cheaper and make money with the Solana you have. Or you can put money in AutoThor and just let it enter and exit all of these all the time at its own will.
You take a look at Pith and see what you see. See what you think.
We have two. Well, we don't really. Let's say calls at least 5%. Wow, even these 15-minute calls are 5%. They're active. Right now, it's at 39 cents. So it's. And that already hit take profit one, right? Let me I might need to refresh it. Let me check, see what the actual price is right now. I'm seeing 43 cents is the current price. So yeah, I think this just needed refreshed. But we can look at the chart. There's not going to be much to look at.
Yeah, I figured there wouldn't be much since it's still so new.
But here's the calls if you want to, screenshot this or anything else. These are, all the calls that.
I think what we get these with five frogs. The Pith.
What, the Thor Pro?
No, I think we get Pith. The calls for Pith with 5 frogs. I believe.
I'll be honest, I'm not sure on that. If you
yeah, 5.
If you
it's 5.
there you go.
Okay.
Boom. Let me pull up the chart. Like I said, there's not gonna be much to look at on it. We're gonna go to a 1 hour just so we can see a little bit more. So you see we kind of had the uptrend. You can see where we had the break and the retest. You can see where we had the downtrend. You can see where we've had. Now, financial advice, do your own research. We've had the low. We've had the higher low. We've had the higher high. We've had the break. We've had the retest for the higher low. We're starting to print candles again above the white EMA. This could indicate a higher high. If we do find support here on the RSI and we do hold this higher low and we don't fall back under here, this actually looks like the entry point. I mean, you see we've had we kept going down. We have the lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, higher low, higher high. Now you enter on the higher low, looking for the higher high, right? And if we hold that, there's our new trend. So you see how when you learn how to identify a trend, right? And how to use a couple basic indicators, right? We're in the bullish zone. Well, we're losing it. We're in the bearish zone. Well, we're breaking it, right? We're going bullish. Well, we're breaking it. We're going bearish. Well, we're breaking it. Same with the EMA. We're printing above the EMA. Well, now we're starting to print below it. Now we're staying below it. Now we're starting to print above it. Are we about to stay above it? So now you can see how you can use multiple indicators to identify a trend. And the trend is your friend until the end. Remember, this is movement of the market that we often see. Right? That's the pattern we often see. And variations of this. But looking at when you're making higher lows and higher highs, higher lows and higher highs in your uptrend, right? And identifying once you've had these points to make your point of entry. Shit, I didn't save that. I think it was in a KuCoin I looked at it. Yep, okay. So now you can see how those are playing out, right? See how the pattern plays out over and over? And there was our M. It's small, but you can see we had to kind of retest the line. Then we didn't make it quite as high, and then we made a break. So there's the very small M, but we have our M. Now we have our lower low. Enter on the lower high, or get out of a long on the lower high. Now if we hold these high, if we hold these higher lows, this could be a potential entry point looking to make what? Higher highs. Not financial advice, do your own research. We'll add it on here so we can continue to look at it. Bam. Okay. Anything else? Is there any tokens that anybody wants to look at? Is there anything you want to go over with Thor? Is there anything?
Fire away. Look at Kira.
Kira. I don't think I can pull Kira up one here. I don't know if I can. Let me give me a second and let me pull it up somewhere else, and then we can look at it. Any other questions while I'm trying to find Kira for us to look at?
Just appreciate you as always. I'm gonna have to dip out. So thanks as always for the Trade Tuesday, man.
Good to catch up, man.
As always.
Yeah, likewise, Mode. Appreciate you always pulling through.
Like I said, I'm glad to see the same people joining each week because I know lets me know you guys are actually learning from week to week and it's not redundant and it's worth both my time and yours.
It's definitely helpful in every aspect.
Anybody know what the best place to look at a chart for here is? Bird eyes. Okay. I was looking at. Yeah. Okay. Kira. Okay. All right. So this is a 4-hour chart, and not a lot of price action as far as like we don't have market makers right now influencing Kira in the price action to really lay it out, but you can see where kind of the downtrend was, and after low so we have the low, small step up, small step up, small step up. See how we're continually taking small steps up? And you can see the line of support. Support, support, making higher highs and lower lows. It's more difficult to identify in a chart that looks like this, but you can still see how higher highs, it didn't make the higher high here, but we did look to hold the higher low. So potentially now make the higher high.
So it's too fresh and too small to fuck around with.
It just doesn't have a whole lot of price action and data to go off of. But I mean, if you look, we're on support right now. You could even, I'd say, draw a short-term downtrend here and say that's our triangle. That's our triangle that we're in right now. Remember how I drew the triangle before, saying we're just kind of in some noise? Until we break out of there. I don't know. It's kind of that 50-50. So I either want to see the break and the retest to indicate going down, or I want to see the break and the retest to indicate going up.
Mm-hmm.
It's always right around this 2-hour mark I start losing my voice. Does that make sense? Can you still see the pattern even though there's not a lot of it's hard to recognize the pattern in a chart like this, but it is there.
Yeah, I'm up, but I don't have much. But yeah, I saw that price is a little bit fluctuating over the last days. Yeah.
Yeah, even here where it was just kind of going back and forth. Wow. 250% up and down.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's been making moves. Anyone else? Any questions on any charts or on Thor before we wrap up here in the next few minutes? Please fire away. I can pull up other coins. We can review regular Thor. Whatever you guys have questions with to help you feel confident that you can be a profitable trader, please ask, and I will do what I can to help. Most important, just remember to manage your risk. No? All right. We're going to wrap up then, and let's go once, twice. Cool. I appreciate everybody. I will be posting this soul chart. So I'll be posting this soul chart and kind of just a recap of where we left off, and we're looking to see, do we? Oh, that's 1 hour, not 4 hours. That's why. Okay. Is this going to be our resistance? Are we going to stay below on the RSI? Are we going to start printing candles below the white EMA? Are we going to hold this, we did make maybe a higher low, but it doesn't look like at this point we're going to make the higher high. We'll find out. But I will post a chart tomorrow in the Tuesday Trader Review that basically shows what happens if we break down from this wedge and what happens if we potentially break up from this wedge, and where these Thor calls come into play relatively. But that's kind of what we're looking at. We're here at this coin flip point, and we're waiting to see, are we going to break up or are we going to break down? Thor has given us calls on both sides. All we can do is prepare for either direction and manage our risk. So there you go. Appreciate the fuck out of all y'all that attend, and like I said, it really does mean a lot seeing the same faces each week, because if it was the same thing over and over and you guys weren't learning something, you wouldn't be here, because well, hell, I wouldn't. So no, for real, like I'm glad I do see the same people back, and it does mean people are learning, and I'm glad that some of my knowledge in trading and using Thor is helping others become profitable. So thank you, Frogs Fuck. Appreciate all y'all. Gonna close out.
Appreciate you. Frogs fuck.
Good one, man.